Hello and welcome to our Duty of Care Awareness training course. In this module, we will delve into the fundamental concepts of duty of care, exploring its implications in the workplace and its intersection with individual rights. We'll examine the legal aspects surrounding duty of care. So, without further delay, let's dive right in.
So, what is the duty of care? The term duty of care refers to the fiduciary responsibility that corporate directors have to uphold a specific level of care. It is a person's or organization's responsibility to take all reasonable precautions to prevent activities that may cause harm to other people or their property.
When it comes to care, a duty of care is a legal and professional obligation to protect people while they are under your care. A duty of care entails being accountable for your people's health, safety and well-being.
As a health and social care professional, your legal duty of care extends to those you support and yourself, your colleagues, and anybody else present in your workplace. For example, if you work in a nursing home, your duty of care extends to maintenance employees and cleaners, just as it does to service consumers. Duty of care influences policy implementation, particularly in safeguarding and risk assessment processes. Risk assessments help minimize hazards, while clear policies and procedures guide behavior to prevent harm and compliance with legislation, such as health and safety regulations, ensures lawful operation. The duty of care is an implicit responsibility for corporate directors, requiring them to make financially, morally, and legally sound decisions in the best interests of the company. It extends to all individuals associated with an establishment, ensuring protection from physical and emotional harm. Breaching this duty can lead to accountability for negligence, particularly in personal injury cases. So, how to achieve these obligations? Well, these obligations can be achieved by making a clear policy statement on duty of care, training all relevant individuals on the basic issues, keeping the training up to date, keeping up-to-date training records and displaying certification, providing clear communication channels for reporting concerns, recording concerns and all further actions taken, reporting outcomes.
The other major fiduciary duty, in addition to the duty of care, is the duty of loyalty. The duty of loyalty differs from the duty of care in that it aims to prohibit directors from acting against the corporation's best interests or reaping a personal profit that is not available to other shareholders.
This obligation forces corporate directors to put the company's fiduciary interests ahead of their own. It also imposes the responsibility of avoiding potential conflicts of interest, preventing a director from self-dealing or profiting from a company opportunity. If a company director violates their duty of loyalty or their duty of care requirements, they could face hefty fines and reparations. Other roles in the financial industry are also subject to the duty of care. For example, accountants and auditors are obligated to and responsible for their clients' best interests. Manufacturers are held responsible for the safety of the things they create and advertise to consumers. When working with patients, all healthcare providers, whether physicians, nurses, or therapists, are required to maintain a duty of care. Failure to provide the patient with the required level of care might result in accusations of negligence on the part of the healthcare professional. Negligence is defined in the medical field as a failure to exercise reasonable care or make efforts to prevent loss or injury to another person.
Now let's shift our focus to the duty of candour. The duty of candour is a legal obligation in the UK that requires healthcare professionals and organisations to be open and transparent with patients when something goes wrong with their treatment or care.
This means that as a healthcare professional, you must tell the patient, or where appropriate, the patient's advocate, carer, or family when something has gone wrong. Apologize to the patient or, where appropriate, the patient's advocate, carer, or family. Offer an appropriate remedy or support to put matters right, if possible. Explain fully to the patient or, where appropriate, the patient's advocate, carer, or family, the short and long-term effects of what has happened. As a healthcare worker, you must also be open and honest with your co-workers, employers, and other relevant organisations, as well as participate in evaluations and investigations when needed. You must also communicate openly and honestly with your regulators, flagging concerns as needed. You must encourage and support one another in being open and honest, rather than preventing one from addressing concerns.
The duty of candour regulations apply as soon as reasonably possible after the screening service learns of a notifiable safety incident. But what constitutes a notifiable safety incident?
Well, in the context of a health service body, a notifiable safety incident is any unwanted or unforeseen incident involving a service user that, in the reasonable opinion of a healthcare professional, was caused by the provision of a regulated activity. This could result in, or appears to have resulted in, the death of the service user, where the death relates directly to the incident rather than to the natural course of the service user's illness or underlying condition. Or severe harm, moderate harm, or prolonged psychological harm to the service user. On the contrary, in the case of a registered person who is not a health service body, a notifiable safety incident is any unwanted or unforeseen incident that appears to have resulted in harm in the reasonable view of a healthcare professional. For example, the death of the service user, where the death relates directly to the incident rather than to the natural course of the service user's illness or underlying condition. An impairment of the sensory, motor, or intellectual functions of the service user which has lasted or is likely to last for a continuous period of at least 28 days. Changes to the structure of the service user's body. The service user experiencing prolonged pain or prolonged psychological harm. Or the shortening of the life expectancy of the service user. Now, let's take a closer look at the duty of care and duty of candour to understand how they are related. Duty of care refers to healthcare workers' obligation to ensure their patients' well-being and safety. Duty of candour, on the other hand, is about being open, honest, and transparent when errors occur in patient care. The duty of care is similar to the duty of candour in that both duties emphasise the importance of prioritising the patient's best interests and maintaining trust and transparency in the healthcare relationship.
Now let's talk about your roles in the workplace according to the duty of care. Your duty of care can have a variety of consequences for your job. You must keep the interests and wishes of persons in mind while working in order to fulfill your responsibilities.
A co-worker might say, for example, that they don't have the resources to give care owing to terrible working conditions. As part of your duty of care, you would be expected to communicate your concerns to someone in authority, such as your manager, in order to fix the problem. This will ensure that the care provided is of the highest quality.
The Code of Conduct outlines the expectations for you in your job. You should familiarise yourself with it as a caregiver so that you're aware of how you should act in your capacity. And duty of care has a number of implications for your job.
To begin with, it is your legal responsibility to look out for the well-being of the people you care about. As a result, any harmful activities you come across should be reported immediately to the appropriate persons, in accordance with your organisation's agreed-upon procedures. In the vast majority of circumstances, this will be your line manager. Broken equipment, suspicions of abuse, bullying, or poor food hygiene are all possibilities. You should not take on any tasks that you are not qualified or competent to undertake. This could result in an individual being harmed accidentally. Similarly, you should always follow company policies and procedures and use equipment in the correct way. You should also ensure that you are always able to justify your actions, inactions, and behaviour. Now, there will be times when individuals may desire to undertake things that are potentially dangerous to their health and safety, and while duty of care requires you to do all possible to keep them safe, you also have a responsibility to respect their rights and choices. Your responsibility to protect an individual's well-being may occasionally collide with that person's right to make decisions of their own free will. It's conceivable that someone you care about will make decisions with which you completely disagree and object.
The Code of Conduct encourages you to work in a way that respects and protects an individual's rights, although certain circumstances may make this impossible. Now we'll go over how to act in certain scenarios, what to do and what not to do.
If your duty of care conflicts with an individual's right to independence by taking away some of their independence, you must find other way to promote their independence. For example, if they should not use a kettle to make a cup of tea and you stop them, you are taking away some of their independence. But if you ask them to prepare the cup of tea, they regain it. Also, if a person wishes to prepare food or drink, but you do not believe it's safe, you should explain why they are unable to do so. And if someone wants to try a new activity, but you're not sure if it's safe, you should produce a risk assessment explaining the danger and the possibility of it occurring.
That's how you can balance the safety and rights of individuals while navigating through conflicts. But wait, there's more to come. Sometimes you'll encounter complaints, comments, dilemmas, and even adverse incidents that require quick handling. But don't worry, in our next module, we'll dive deep into tackling all of these challenges. That's a wrap for now. You can check the resource section for detailed information. See you in the next module.